Mitch McConnell knew this day was coming. Since election night, when Donald Trump was declared the winner of the Electoral College and the loser of the people's vote, Mitch McConnell knew this day was coming. He just didn't know it would be this bad. Mitch McConnell knew that with a Republican president, the Republican Senate was going to have to actually try to deliver a bill that would repeal and replace Obamacare. Republicans in the Senate had pushed bills like that under President Obama when they knew it wasn't a real legislative thing. They knew that either the Democrats would filibuster them in the Senate or the president would just veto whatever they passed. Of course, President Obama would veto it. Mitch McConnell knew and has known for years that it would be impossible to write a bill that repeals and replaces Obamacare that would not be described as mean by any reasonable person or even an unreasonable person. Mitch McConnell had every right to believe that he dodged this disaster in March when Paul Ryan would not let his health care bill go to the floor of the House for a vote because he didn't have the votes. That was when Paul Ryan and Donald Trump did the most unprofessional thing that any House Speaker or President has ever done in a legislative exercise. They both publicly gave up on their big promise to repeal and replace Obamacare.
I don't know what else to say other than Obamacare is the law of the land. It's going to remain the law of the land until it's replaced. We did not have quite the votes to replace this law. And so, yeah, we're going to be living with Obamacare for the foreseeable future.
I think we have to let Obamacare go its way for a little while, and we'll see how things go. I'd love to see it do well, but it can't. I mean, it can't.
Their fans were not happy with that surrender. When Paul Ryan gave up that time around, all he had to say was that he was going to continue to work on the bill and work on getting votes. That's all he really had to say, which is actually what Paul Ryan ended up having to do, much to Mitch McConnell's surprise and perhaps horror, because then Mitch McConnell knew his day was coming after it got through the House. Mitch McConnell always knew that the mean idea of throwing 22 or 23 million people off their health care coverage was going to be difficult for some of his Republican senators. He just wasn't sure how many. He could afford to lose only 2 of them, 3 of them. He could afford to lose only 2 of them, and that's why Mitch McConnell never once expressed any confidence in actually passing a bill. In the Senate, McConnell simply announced that he would deal with the bill one way or another before the 4th of July recess. McConnell always publicly allowed for the possibility that he could lose that vote on the Senate floor, and he always made it clear that if he did, he was going to move on to the next Republican agenda item, which was supposed to be a massive tax cut. The one thing that Mitch McConnell and all the Republicans know how to do, a massive tax cut. One big public problem for Mitch McConnell was that Republican voters, especially Trump voters, were led to believe that this was going to be very easy.
You're going to have such great health care at a tiny fraction of the cost, and it's going to be so easy.
We're going to come up with plans, health care plans, that will be so good and so much less expensive, both for the country and for the people, and so much better. I am going to take care of everybody. I don't care if it costs me votes or not. Everybody's going to be taken care of much better than they're taken care of now.
While candidate Trump was saying all of that, one Republican candidate for president was telling some truths about health care in America that Republican audiences did not want to hear.
I've not only sued the administration, I did not set up an exchange, and he knows that I'm not for Obamacare, never have been. But here's interesting about Medicaid. You know who expanded Medicaid 5 times to try to help the folks and give them opportunities so they could rise and get a job? President Ronald Reagan. Now, the fact of the matter is we expanded to get people on their feet, and once they're on their feet, we are giving them the training and the efforts that they need to be able to get work and pull out of that situation.
John Kasich won today, and Donald Trump lost. John Kasich, the Republican governor of the all-important Electoral College state of Ohio, opposed Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump's bill. Governor Kasich made it impossible for Ohio Senator Rob Portman to vote for the McConnell bill. But Rob Portman, in a typical display of senatorial courage, did not announce his opposition to the bill until Mitch McConnell announced that he was giving up and that he would not even bring the bill to a vote. Mitch McConnell announced that when enough Republican senators announced clear enough opposition that would leave Mitch McConnell 1 or 2 votes short of passing the bill in the Senate, that's when he pulled the bill. Some of the senators left enough vagueness in their willingness to negotiate with Mitch McConnell that it wasn't really completely clear how many of them really would vote against it if Mitch McConnell brought the bill to the floor. But now that he's pulled the bill, we have public reports saying that 9 Republican senators were actually going to come out and vote against it if it came to the floor of the Senate this week. That would have meant Mitch McConnell's bill would have gotten 41 votes on the Senate floor. Now, there have been plenty of good, solid legislative efforts that have ended with only 41 votes on the Senate floor, and no one felt ashamed or humiliated by that. It would be a clear loss, but not an outright humiliation. But the truth of the Senate is Mitch McConnell wasn't going to come close to 41 votes. And he knew that, and that is why he pulled the bill. Mitch McConnell was willing to lose and move on a roll call vote. He said so very clearly at the beginning of this process that that was both a threat and a promise to Republican members, his willingness to have a vote and lose and move on. The threat of that being, you will have one chance to vote on your promise to repeal and replace Obamacare. The promise of that was that the Senate would move on to other business, no matter how that vote turned out. Mitch McConnell promised Republicans in the Senate that they wouldn't have to live with endless wrangling about a health care bill. Mitch McConnell made it very clear to his members that he did not consider this a must-pass bill. When a Senate leader has a must-pass bill, the Senate leader always expresses total confidence that it will pass because he cannot afford to have any of his members doubting that it will pass, because if enough members doubt that it will pass, then virtually no Republicans will cast that tough vote, a mean vote, to take health care away from 22 million people. Here is Mitch McConnell last week publicly refusing, time and again, to express any confidence at all about passing his health care bill.
Senator McConnell, you must be very confident that this bill is going to pass, number one. And number two, are you willing to burn a reconciliation package if it's not?
We're going to make every effort to pass a bill that dramatically changes the current health care law.
But that's not confidence necessarily. I mean, you wouldn't bring a bill up unless you were confident, right?
And so the truth of what Mitch McConnell was facing today, he was not facing the defection of 3 or 4 senators. He wasn't facing the defection of 9 senators in a roll call vote if he brought this bill to a vote. Mitch McConnell wasn't going to come close to 41 votes on the Senate floor if he brought this bill to a vote. The best Mitch McConnell was going to do if he brought this bill to the Senate floor, 5 votes. 5 votes. That's what he was going to get. Mitch McConnell was facing the prospect of losing 95-5 on the Senate floor. That's not losing, that's being wiped out. That's what the majority leader of the Senate could not afford to do. Mitch McConnell himself is only one of only 5 senators, 5, who said they would vote for this bill. No major bill has ever been advanced by a majority leader in the Senate that had only 5 senators in the majority leader's party saying they would support the bill. We have never seen less support for an important bill brought by a majority leader in the history, the recorded public history of the Senate. That's how bad this was. Only 5 votes, that's what he had. All the rest of the Republicans have said absolutely nothing about the bill or have publicly indicated that they were undecided, and now a total of 9 say that they were outright opposed. If on the Senate floor Mitch McConnell was going to come up short of the 50 votes he needed, he only needed 50 because then Vice President Mike Pence would have given him the 51st vote to pass it. Mitch McConnell knew that he wasn't going to come up short. He knew that if he was going to hit 49 votes, the bottom would fall out. There was no space between 49 votes and 5 votes. Everybody between 49 and 5 would just defect. They would just immediately move into the no column. Mitch McConnell knew that would happen on television, on the Senate floor, in a 15-minute or so roll call vote. The country would see that happen. And that's why Mitch McConnell pulled the bill, and President Trump didn't argue with him about that, because Mitch McConnell knew that the Republican Party in the United States Senate could prove with their votes how big a lie the repeal and replace Obamacare promise always was. It was a lie because no Republican knew how to do it. It was a lie because one Republican in the Senate who tried to do it this year came up with a bill that only 5 Republicans said they could vote for. That was the picture that America was on the verge of seeing if Mitch McConnell brought that bill to a vote. 90% of the Republicans in the Senate were willing to vote to preserve Obamacare instead of vote to repeal Obamacare. The reason Senate leaders always try to schedule votes on controversial legislation right before big recesses like the 4th of July recess is that when members of the Senate go home during the recess, they only become less supportive of the controversial legislation because they always hear more from the opponents than from the supporters. And so Mitch McConnell knows that the very best chance he had to pass a health care bill was this week, and he did not come close. The resistance won again, and this time the resistance included Republican governors like John Kasich and Republican senators.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.